And a good Thursday evening, everybody. It's news night on the themcfiles this week. We're so grateful to have you back here with us tonight. And got the cowboy hat going tonight. We got a double, man, we got two. Ho! We got royalty on the themcfiles tonight, and we're grateful that you all are here. We got Ruth Goodenheim coming up here in just a second. If I got that hat on right tonight, Eddie Cole is going to be laughing his head off. I got to make sure I got this on right. He gave me this cowboy hat, and I don't even know how to wear it. Ain't that terrible? Maybe it's this way. I don't know. But anyway, it looks, I guess that's the way it looks. That gold goes in the back. People accuse me of being a gold digger. But anyway, I swear, let me get my composure here. I'll have it right by the time the interview with Ruth ends. We interviewed Ruth Goodenheim today. Amuna Israel, worldamuna.com is her website. I think it's .com or .org. She'll say it at the end of this interview. This is going to be a great interview. It's about a half hour, maybe 20 minutes. And then we got Jeemes Akers up. We got breaking news tonight. John Bolton has been indicted on 28 counts of classified document abuse. We've got word that our government is off the coast of Venezuela tonight, and we very well could be getting ready to launch some kind of action against these cartels within Venezuela. It seems like a lot of these drug boats. He shot another one, Trump did today, out of the water in the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico today, trying to get to Florida with more drugs. And Venezuelans are going to learn one way or the other. Maduro is going to learn one way or the other. You don't mess with Trump. And Hamas is about to find that out too. We've gotten 8 bodies back out of 28. One of the last females that they had there, one of the last female hostages, was returned today. She returned dead. I read a story today that was heartbreaking. We're going to talk to Ruth about it tonight. They killed every female hostage they had. There was no, after they raped them, tortured them, and some of the stories have been just gut-wrenching, some of the things that these hostages have went through. But there was some special hate and special torture dished out to the females. That's Islam, folks. Islam does not respect women, but they made sure that no female come back alive. And the last one tonight that they did that to, her body has been flown back to Israel, and I think that was the 8th hostage. So there's 20 of them still that have not been accounted for, and Trump today basically is telling Hamas, you get those bodies back, you put your arms down, you put your weapons down, stop killing your own people. He issued an ultimatum tonight. You either stop this or we're coming. And when he says we, that may be the Americans, could be the Israelis, we don't know. We're going to talk to Ruth about this, get her take on it. You're going to enjoy her tonight. I'll come up with a pretty good poll question. Is Chris's hat on backwards or not? We got Jeemes Akers. I'm just in a good mood. It was good to see O'Shelley and Dave Wingard tonight. We had fellowship with them, and that's why we're running a little late. We were delayed getting back, and had to get ready for the show tonight. Got a lot of videos, so it's going to be an extended themcfiles. It's a late night show. I like these late night shows. Kids are in bed and all. And but this is how we're going to start it off. This interview with Ruth. It's going to be good stuff tonight. So stick around with us, and we hope that you'll enjoy this interview. It's going to be powerful stuff. And we'll be back after this, and we'll take a break, and then we'll have Jeemes Akers on the line with us. But this is going to be an interesting talk with Ruth about the hostage situation this week and the current state of affairs in Israel and America government tonight. And we've got a lot to say tonight about all that. So stick around with us. We're grateful to have you. And if you're grateful you're with us, put some fire in that house. Give a hearty American and themcfile welcome to Ruth Goodenheim of Amuna Israel, a dear friend and a wonderful lady with a heart for her people. And I appreciate her so much being a part of this mishpachah, this family as well. She's blessed, and I thank Ruth for coming on tonight. You're going to enjoy her. Listen up. And a good evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you on a very special pre-recorded MacFiles interview. We're grateful to have our dear friend Ruth Guggenheim. We've not seen her in a while, and the world has changed so much since I've last talked to her. I tell you what, we have had a tremendous some events take place in Israel with the returning of the hostages and this Egypt peace deal that seems to be somewhat holding, but I want to get her thoughts on all that. But first of all, before I do all that, I just want to welcome you, friend. It's good to see you. You are a very special guest on the show, and I really mean that. I've always appreciated your time, taking your time to come talk to us about things in Israel. And Amuna is a great organization, and just very proud to have you as a friend, and grateful to have you tonight on the Mac Files. Good to see you.
Likewise. Thanks, Chris. It's great to see you. It has been a while and the world has changed.
Yes, it has. I do want to just, before we get to the political weeds, I want to talk about the hostages themselves. I think that anybody with a soul Monday watching these hostages come home, I know that I sat here and watched. I was up at 2:30 in the morning. I was so anxious about to see if Hamas was going to follow through with them being released. I couldn't even sleep Sunday night into Monday. And sure enough, around 2:30 my time in the morning, it would be 9 o'clock Israel time. The first seven were released, and I said to myself then, I said, well, maybe this actually is going to happen today. When I saw that, and then the rest of them came home later that day. But the stories have been very gut wrenching. What's being said and about the torture, the both psychologically, physical starvation. I read a story today by one of the hostages that the Hamas terrorists told him, we'll feed you if you convert to Islam, and he wouldn't convert to Islam, and they kept starving him and that kind of thing. But from a humanitarian perspective only, it's got to have been a good week for Israel to see these hostages finally home, Ruth, because I think this was always Bibi's biggest thing. You give me the hostages, we'll talk about stopping this onslaught. But Hamas just continued to refuse until Trump stepped in and said, look, you got to accept this deal. If not, we're going to unleash what on you. And they gave into it. It was sort of shocking to me that they did it, but they did. It's got to be a good day for Israel in that respect.
Well, Monday was a tearjerker day, as
Oh,
we
yeah,
would say.
absolutely.
All of us were glued to either our laptops or the TV, whatever, since the beginning, since we were all waiting for Trump to land and everything. It was a little bit late, but it's also a part of Israel culture. Everything's a little bit late. He landed. It was momentous. I mean, he was greeted like a true hero that he is, to be honest. And put me on hold for a second. My battery's going to die, I see.
Okay.
So it was like, seriously, seeing this hero, this amazing person that really stood by his commitments. I mean, Trump, we all know, is a unique individual no matter what, but he is definitely the deal maker. And as you did say, 20 of the hostages have been returned. One of the interesting things, though, I do want to acknowledge right away is that they were supposed to send back 28 deceased.
Deceased.
And as of a few hours ago, there have only been 8 returned, and one of them actually that they had returned last night was not even an Israeli. Okay, it was one of their own people. So they're not holding up their end of the deal, and things are getting extremely tense here. And there is a constant back and forth about whether or not Bibi's going to go back in there now and accelerate the war, even though we put everything on a ceasefire. And as you know, Israel will stick to their commitments, but we will not, we will not be cowered into anything. And I don't know. We talked about this in the past, Chris. Hamas could have released these hostages such a long time ago. This whole war could have been over. There was no reason for them to do to their own people what they did, let alone what happened to the hostages and to Israel and to what we all went through for the last 2 years. But they did it to their own people. The world isn't even realizing that. Those who were so pro Hamas, talking about the 2-state solution again and saying like, we're for, there's still protesters, pro-Palestinian protests all across the country and the world actually. And they're not looking at, they destroyed their own people. They destroyed their own cities. I mean, first of all, Gaza basically was a completely Palestinian state when you look at it, because when we left in 2005, we left. There was no Jew was allowed. We were barred from entry into the Gaza Strip and everything. So they had an opportunity to make, as we would say the Golden Medina, they could have made a golden land for themselves. They could have done everything powerful, used all the money that they were given from all the world leadership. And yet they chose this route, and they continue to choose violence over peace. And I don't know if we ever talked about, but the actual Hebrew word Hamas, which is in the Tanakh, in the Bible, in the Jewish Hebrew scriptures, numerous times, means violence. Hamas means violence. So talk about prophecy, and when we saw these hostages released, all we could think of as Israelis is like, thank God our kids, our people are coming home to be in the arms of their loved ones. It was such a prophetic time also, Chris, because it was literally exactly 2 years to the day, one day short of the holiday that they actually did, the actual horrible war, and took all the hostages and killed all the people. And it is a bracha, it is a blessing, and we are living through the miracles, but we are praying now that this really does end.
Well, I was going to say there was sort of I was some of our comments that I saw this week in our show. People said it's bittersweet because Rick, my only issue with this whole thing, with the governments of the world in general, our country, is that it's easy to, and I'm happy. Look, my heart, I was crying with everybody else Monday, watching that man get out of that wheelchair and hug his son, and just those gut-wrenching cries that he gave for his son. And you don't have a soul if that didn't move you in some way. As a father, it moved me. As a human being, it moved me. But I guess there was a part of me that I stopped early in the morning on Monday, and I said, there are 1,200 Israelis that died in this tremendous onslaught of hell from Hamas. And it seems that, and I respect what President Trump did. I respect what Bibi's doing, trying to make peace. They're trying their best to make peace with this group. But it's almost as if there's no remembrance and accountability for what they did. And there's a sense in some, I'm one of them, that we almost do not need to forget that 1,200 people died in this terrorist attack. As happy as we are for the hostages getting home, the overarching issue has still not been addressed. Because, I asked my brother about this. My brother he's different from his older brother, who runs his mouth and is wired up all the time. Todd's real calm and collected and retired Air Force. And I asked him about this, and his statement to me was pretty blunt. He said, every Hamas terrorist needs to be wiped off the face of the earth without mercy. There should not be any mercy granted to the quarters of this group for what they've done. And this should have been, Bibi should have been allowed to really do what Bibi should have done to begin with, and that's just make Gaza a level ground and start again. Chris McDonald agrees with that. What say you?
Notice Ruth Guggenheim, and about 95% of the Israeli society. You should know, Chris, that there is, I think at this point, even those who were on the left prior to the onset of what Hamas did, those left people are no longer left and so liberal. Everybody
I understand that.
Shifted, and there's no sympathy here anymore for the Palestinians, for Hamas. And we also know, and we do not forget, and we will not let it forget, even though Monday was an amazing day here, the news didn't change. We're still living in the moment. We're still living in the reality, whereas in America and the rest of the world, they may think it's, quote, over. We know it's not. It's not at all over. And, again, we realize that they're not sticking to their end of the deal. They're not disarming, as we, as Israelis, knew this would happen. You know what I'm saying? We're not. Israelis have been through this since 1948. All of our enemies have led us to war, have not kept their commitments, whatever side they're on, and everything. Israelis are not foolish anymore. We know that we are most likely still going to go forward with the war. We're going to still have to continue to level Gaza, God willing, rebuild it in a whole different way. Hamas cannot be a part of that. I don't know if the Palestinian Authority should be. I mean, people don't even talk about the fact that the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, they've had the same leader for 25 years. I mean, what kind of quote democracy is that and everything? And they aren't moving forward. They're still stuck way back mentally, psychologically, and politically. And we will never forget what happened here, Chris. And we are very much on guard and ready and prepared to do what we needed to do 2 years ago. But because of the previous American administration, we couldn't do it, as we
I
all
agree.
know.
I agree.
Trump is a whole new partner. Here there's even talking about the whole story of Cyrus, Koresh in the Bible. Cyrus the Great, was considered a huge hero to the Jewish people because he enabled us to return from Babylonia and go back and to rebuild the temple. Well, people are calling Trump that. We don't really know. He's not done yet. He's not done, and God isn't done using him as his tool to do whatever is going to happen. We still have the whole Iran. Are we going to go back and fight Iran again? Is that where we're going to continue to grow? Egypt is showing sides, even though we have a huge ceasefire with Egypt, which has held up. But it's a love-hate relationship, and
Sure it is.
that's being strained right now too. So we don't really know what tomorrow will bring. And I think that's one of the things in Israel, you never know what the next day will
Hey,
bring.
next day will bring. Well, you brought up a good point, and you led me right into my next area of discussion with you because I wanted to get your take on Qatar. This is my opinion. I, I I've agreed with pretty much everything President Trump has done, but I did feel like that, and I know what I've been told that it probably was water off Bibi's back. Bibi didn't even care about it, about having to apologize. But we Southerners, we just look at things a little differently than these liberal tea drinkers in New York. Israel went into Qatar. They were not going to bomb a hotel just because Israel was bored and wanted to go bomb a hotel. They believed that the Hamas leadership was there. Granted, it didn't go as planned, and a Qatari individual was killed. There was some damage done. But why would Bibi be the one that needs to apologize when instead of asking the question, why did Israel bomb the hotel, while the Hamas leadership was there to begin with? And my question to you is simple. Does Israel, the people, trust Qatar any more than they trust Hamas? From an American standpoint, from my standpoint, I don't. And in fact, even watching this Egyptian Gaza event after all the emotions of the hostages, I was watching Turkey, Egypt, who hate Israel's guts. Erdogan wouldn't even come to the meeting if Trump would have brought Bibi with him. There was a Breitbart report that Erdogan told the United States, said, if you got Bibi on that plane, you can turn that plane back around because we're not going to meet. Well, you can't have peace, Ruth, unless they're going to have to accept the fact that you're going to have to deal with the leadership of Israel. And right now, Bibi's that leadership. You can't just say we want peace and not deal with it. But I don't trust this bunch. And I don't think any deal that they're going to put on the table is going to benefit Israel. That's just my 2 cents. What's Ruth Guggenheim's 2 cents on that?
I agree with you completely. I mean, I don't know. I think it was humiliating that he had to apologize. I'm not exactly sure why that had to happen, but something I'm sure behind the scenes did, and it must have been, quote, a part of the deal in order that maybe President Trump could move forward with bigger and maybe more important things to deal with. I mean, yes, it is humiliating. Yes, we should never have had to apologize. And mistakes are made in war, but when you didn't start the war yourself, and these are the backers of the war and everything, people have to look at that realistically. But you said you said you didn't think Bibi even cared. I do think he did, and I think this was also sometimes a good leader needs to know when they have to be humble both before the people and humble before God. And I think I can't speak for Bibi. I don't know him, obviously. I think he was a great leader. I think the last 2 years took its tremendous toll on him and certainly on the people of Israel. There are a lot of people that turned against him. It wasn't just about the hostages. It was also like, was there really a goal? Was there really an end game? And a lot of times, most people, we, the average lay people in society, we can't really know what the government is doing and what the military has to do in order to keep us safe. But a lot of people turned against him. It's interesting. They said in the polls, obviously his rating has skyrocketed since Monday and everything. But we're wary. And,
I can tell.
so I think I can't say a whole lot more than that. I don't think, though, that he should have had to be humiliated, and I will say one thing about Monday's speeches in the Knesset. I mean, like, it was like a love feast.
I saw
If we could have only kept this going,
oh,
I think from Israel, it was like the biggest sigh of relief that after 2 years, we just needed to feel great. It's like when you go into a party, you've been mourning, you've been in major depression, whatever, and all of a
great
sudden
point.
your spirits are lifted because your best friend has given you the party you've wanted. And that's what I saw Monday. I think none of us were fooled, and the hugging and the handshakes, and I think the bantering. I couldn't believe the type of bantering that went on in the Knesset. That's not normal Israeli behavior, even though we're much more laid back than the American government. From a day
Right,
to day, we're more laid back.
right.
But this is the Knesset. It's authoritarian. People are very serious. Netanyahu, everybody's speeches, whenever you hear, they're proper speeches, well prepared, well articulated. And here, I think when Trump just kind of like went off script, as he often does, he did it
He
in a
did.
beautiful way here. And
Sure.
with the House Speaker and Kahana and all that, there was just Ohana, there was like so many. It was like a love feast, and we needed that. We, Israel,
Good
the
point.
people of Israel, maybe the rest of the world needed it, just to see some relief and to see, what, we can go for it. And God wants us to sometimes, we're going to have to
Absolutely.
walk past what happened. Never forget. Jews don't forget, as you know, but we need to rebuild and go forward. And that's the beauty of Judaism. And I think the strength that God gave us is that never forget your past. Always know, no, I'll be with you, but you've got to pick yourself up and move forward. And we, the people in Israel, will do that.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I do want to ask you a weird question. Maybe you can answer this. Maybe you can't. Maybe, I don't know if there is an answer. And I have watched the sentiment over here about BB2. A lot of this anti-Semitic rants that's going on. I hear people all the time say, "Well, our beef is not with Israel. Our beef is with Bibi." But my question to them is simple. Well, if Bibi Netanyahu wasn't in power, and let's just say Israel had an Ehud Olmert or an Ehud Barak or a left-leaning leader, I don't think this stops. I don't think anything would have been done to Hamas. I've got a sick feeling that Hamas may still be doing what they're doing, Ruth, because you have to have strong leadership. And look, maybe he's not perfect. Trump's not perfect, but you want a strong leader that's got some kind. Look, I don't think anybody. I don't even think Donald Trump. If that was to happen to our nation, if that would have happened here, as wonderful leaders Donald Trump is, nothing prepares you for a terrorist attack of this scale, of this nature, of this brutality, that is the worst since the Holocaust in your southern part of your nation. And nobody gets to dictate the terms of the response to that. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what leaders out there. And my question to you is, what leaders does the world want that can give anything other than somebody that the world can run over and the world can tell what to do and just screw Israel up the butt? I think that's what the world at large wants, and that's why people hate Bibi. And maybe that's some of this sentiment. And I've had a lot of respect for him. And look, I don't look at him, I don't worship Bibi, but I do believe he's done the best he can in these circumstances with what was dealt to Israel. And you're right, the Biden administration did not help him any, because he could have finished this war in about 6 months. Because Israel's got the firepower. They could have put Hamas in the Mediterranean Sea, and Trump Tower could have already been built. With this,
But it
would have been
also
done what he's
shows,
supposed to do.
Chris, you're bringing up a point that needs to also be said, besides the fact that I think BB did the best he could. And again, mistakes are always made, and more, how
Absolutely.
could they not? It's easy for all of us sitting here talking comfortably in our living rooms or dining rooms. We're not at the front line seeing what's going on in the military. Every soldier that has been
Right.
killed, nearly 1,000, has been given the dignity of a state-sponsored funeral. His family is being supported wherever they can. Organizations like Amuna, we're all reaching out to the widows and the families and all this. This is a very, very difficult time. I don't think America could have done anything differently. Look, we have September 11th to look at, okay?
Absolutely.
First of all, when you talk about September 11th, which was the worst moment in our history, I was living in America at the time. Obviously, I think we all really remember the moment the first plane hit and then realized that the second, and then we were all glued to our TV for God knows how many days until we finally had to cut it because it was like becoming like over and over. We're watching the same things. 3,000 people were killed then. And George Bush didn't, went right in and we had to do something. Was it all right? Actually, it looks like some of the mistakes were definitely made. But I think in September 11th, the majority of the American people knew that within a few weeks, we needed to respond.
Yes.
They were on our soil. They attacked our people. It was an in-your-face attack. This was a terrorist attack that we saw here in Israel, similar. And think about it, 1,200 people that were massacred at the Nova site, 1,200 people is equal to, and you take 3,000 people because of the difference in our numbers, you're talking about the equivalent of millions of people being massacred on October 7th here, okay? Because our country, as you know, has only 15 million people. It's so small. So people have to put all that into perspective. And how did your listeners, how did all of us feel September 11th? Well, how we felt that day in September 12th and 13th and 14th is exactly where Israel was October 7th, 8th, 9th, up until today. And we are not going to let anyone anymore dictate to us. And thank God, President Trump is not dictating in a negative way. He's not holding Bibi's hands. He said this, he just said recently, if they don't return the dead hostages and disarm, as was the agreement, I'm going to give Bibi he's going to go in there and he's going to knock the hell out of them. And basically what I read, Trump said, it just takes one word from me. When I'm ready, I'll say go, and we're going to go.
Well, in that press conference yesterday, he went further. He said that because Hamas has been out there sort of arrogantly saying we're not going to disarm, and Trump said, I've got a word for the Hamas leadership. They will disarm, and if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And he said, even if I have to do it violently, and he said, and this is, we're American citizens, you're dual citizen, and I heard that. My concern is that I think that if America gets involved in this with these soldiers and gets any kind of involvement, then I think it all becomes very complicated. And that's why I'm praying Hamas does the right thing, Ruth, because the dynamics, the vision, whether it's the optics of American involvement in the Middle East with soldiers, it's going to cause this country to go nuts. And I'm very concerned about that. And I'm just praying that this gets worked out before we reach that. But I don't trust.
It's not just going nuts, Chris. It will be the Third World War. Okay.
Yes, it will.
And I think as much as Israel appreciates the American support, there's no question about it. You are our best friends. I don't think we're asking for military boots on the ground. Israel will go in there and do the job. We need the support, and we may need the arms and the tools of war. But we are not asking for you to get involved, because if that happens, similar to what may happen if we ever have to go back into Iran with America's help, no one's looking for a third world war at this point.
Nobody. That's very true. That's well said. I want to ask you a question. We'll wrap it up in a little bit. Have you been shocked at the response of I was talking to somebody about the anti-Semitism. It seems like the campuses have calmed down here, but the sentiment, the rhetoric has now jumped into social media. We've got some of the largest voices in social media, whatever you call them, the world or whatever, have come out and just said some of the most vilest things. It sort of started with Charlie Kirk's assassination here about a month and a half ago. And to hear some of these theories, and Israel is at the root of all of them. I mean, it's like there's this grand attempt, and it seems like since the summer, it's been ramped up a little bit. And then even after the hostages come home, instead of this group rejoicing, there's always a ulterior motive, that this was all planned and all this stuff. And Trump is Bibi's puppet and Bibi's Trump's puppet and all this crap. Where does Israel see all this still? Is that I know the campuses have calmed down, but that rhetoric has not. And it's got to weigh on y'all as a.
Oh, it does. Charlie Kirk was a great friend of Israel, and when people started to say that we were behind the assassination, look, anybody who wants to will always blame everything on Israel. I mean, that's almost prophetic too.
That's true.
We are in the center of everything. And if you want to hate us, you're going to. But at the end of the day, God is going to show everybody what's going to really happen. Um, but yes, it does weigh on us, Chris. I mean, I can't even go on social media. I refuse to. I don't want to see it. I don't need to be depressed. It's like, and then you've got these flotillas and you got these people saying things that they don't even know the facts. They don't
I
know the
know.
facts. And I am I appreciate that the colleges, the universities seem to have quieted down. And I think a part of that was the threat from Trump because he
It
pulled a lot
was.
of funding. Like he may ultimately may need to take some of that funding and give it back. I know he's the administration. I don't know. Someone's being sued by some of these campuses so that they can get back their funding. But in the meantime, it has forced things to quiet down. Look, a lot of things he's doing in your country where there's a increased violence in certain cities that has nothing to do with the Jewish community, just the increase in violence and that. And he's tough. You have to be tough and strong in order to. People aren't going to just stop because you say, please stop. Or please stop being anti-Semitic. There's too much evil and violence right now, and I do think that the world has turned a bit upside down. There's a Hebrew word called afuch, when things are upside down. Okay. And we are literally living in that time because when you see that evil is admired, evil is praised, evil is looked at as
Yes.
good, and social
That's it.
media again is the social media and the internet is the blessing and the curse of our day. It is a blessing because it gives us the ability to communicate all over the world, to spread good things, to spread God's word, and to teach and to do things for the positive. But it's a curse when it comes to doing things for the negative. And unfortunately, the evil side of people is coming out on social media.
That is so true, Ruth. That is so true. Listen, I appreciate you being with me tonight. Final question, and you can make this short, and we're going to get you back on again soon. Looking forward to seeing you in January. And but I want
I
to go
will.
back to Phoebe just for a second. Is there any feeling that I know you mentioned his poll numbers have gone up, but I remember Bush Senior's poll numbers went up after first Gulf War and then Bill Clinton, you know, won the election just less than a year later because people are fickle in America, just like they're fickle all over the world. You're their hero on Monday, they want to hang you by Friday. But is there a sense that because of what's happened, hostages are home? Is there any fear that the nation may turn left with a next prime minister and appease the Palestinian wing of this argument for land, for peace, which I think is a disaster? Or do you think that Bibi has solidified the situation and stabilized it to where that another, if even if it's not Bibi Netanyahu, at least it will be a right, strong conservative leader that can withstand this onslaught against Israel from all sides?
It's an excellent question, and I don't really have a good answer. I do know that there is a discussion here of elections being November 20th, potentially. I think he would do it now because his numbers are higher. But what we did see, and we even saw this on Monday in the Knesset, when the opposition leader got up and even complimented, I think even the left is no longer so left. Obviously, there's always going to be a few people who are as far left as humanly possible. But I think politically, people in the political know-how, people who have the facts and the figures, the left, the opposition, I think that they have moved a little bit more to the
Okay.
center, to be honest.
Okay. That answers that. And I think nobody knows, and I don't know that. But I will tell you this, I'll leave it on this. Israel better be thankful. The world better be thankful that this happened with Bibi Netanyahu in power. Because had it been a leaning leader, Ruth, had it been a weak leader, this could have been a million times worse. And again, I have nothing but respect for him. I am not one of these Monday morning quarterbacks. Look, I can only imagine the decision that he had to make in the light of this tragedy. And you're right, mistakes were going to be made. It's inevitable, but it sort of grieves me. And I'm just one of these that just want to say, shut the blank up from people that are criticizing how Israel handled this war when they wasn't there to see the carnage and the babies murdered, the women raped, the heads cut off, the blood, the guts, the humiliation. And listening to these stories of these hostages have only confirmed to me that these Hamas people are butchers. They're less than animals. Look, I pray for their soul, okay? But my brother's right. the terrorist group, needs to be eradicated from the face of this freaking earth. And that's my final word on that. It's good to see you tonight.
Amen. Likewise. Thanks for having me, Chris. Once again, it was a pleasure. Good night.
Give everybody your website real quick before you leave.
It's www.emunaisrael.org. Emunah is EMUNAH. emunaisrael.org. Thanks.
Ruth, thank you. God bless, friend.
Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Thank you, Ruth Gudenheim. What a good interview there. We're grateful that she did that. We're going to talk about that interview in a minute, but we've got another good friend of ours. He's not from Israel. He is from the Buckeye State, and I'm sure watching the baseball games tonight or doing something fun. Jeemes Akers on the line with us, his weekly appearance on the McFiles. But it's so good to see you tonight. Hadn't talked to you this week, and it wouldn't be a week of shows if I didn't have the one and only Jeemes Akers. Good to see you.
Well, thank you, Chris. Nice being on with you.
Listen, I know you heard the latter part of Ruth's interview about the situation in Israel. We'll get to that in a minute, but I want to talk to you about the other breaking news tonight here about John Bolton, former CIA head, intelligence officer, and Secretary of State, actually, briefly. And he got indicted tonight, 28 counts of basically document mishandling, national security advisor, I should say, his mishandling of these documents. And I want to get your take on that. And again, it just seems that Trump today with Patel, when they held that press conference, Patel ended the press conference saying that there were more indictments coming to these corrupt officials. And James, we talked about this other night, that, with the indictment of Letitia James, you've had the indictment of James Comey. This could be a domino, and I think that we're going to be in for an interesting fall, and it's going to be popcorn worthy. But what's your take on Bolton getting indicted? I really didn't see this coming, honestly. When I heard they raided his home here a few weeks ago, I said, whoa, because I thought he was sort of low-hanging fruit. And what's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah. They sort of stayed away from the neocon crowd, so that opens up an interesting page. And then, but one has to proceed with caution in these things. The governor of Illinois was saying, talking about all these ICE officials and everything else. If the worm turns and another party comes in power, all of you people are going to go on trial. And we have entered a season where the party that's in political power takes scalps, and one has to be careful what they wish for these days.
Well, they better, because it may not be a conservative administration next time, and the left could start doing this very thing too. And it is concerning, but I do believe, and this has just been my take on this, if you don't have a response of this stuff, it's going to continue to go. And I think that if these are legitimate, I don't think that Trump and them, I don't think the DOJ would just put an indictment out there unless they've got solid evidence that a crime's been committed. I don't think that they would put the reputation, because it's going to look like a witch hunt if you get into these courtrooms and the evidence is flimsy and it begins to look like a political hit job. Then that's going to blow up in their face. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I do say this: Bolton was very arrogant when they raided Mar-a-Lago, James, back in 24. He was out there screaming up and down that Trump needed to be thrown in jail immediately. And I tell you what, there's just been a lot of reaping and sowing. You reap something, you sow this, you're going to reap it, man. And I'm just curious, who do you think's next? I mean, who do you think that they've got on their radar?
Well, the big ultimate fish would be Hillary, but I'm just not sure that they'll go down that track.
You think Obama? I know that he's got immunity, but do you think they at least try to pursue something against him? Because he's out there running his mouth again. He was out there doing that interview yesterday, and calling Trump, whining that Trump had undone everything him and Michelle had tried to do, and I wanted to scream into the TV, "That's the idea, dude." I mean,
Yeah.
that's why we elected Trump instead of Hillary in 2016 to undo what she had done for 8 years. And he's now back in Gavin Newsom's illegal redistricting plan, and and you just it's such hypocrisy in our politics. It's what makes people want to vomit. When you say politics, it's what makes people want to vomit, buddy.
No, that's exactly right. All of these political agendas, and what gets lost in all of this is a common sense approach. We've got to get this country united and moving in the same direction again, and all we get is politics as usual.
Yeah, we do, without a doubt. I haven't talked to you this week since the hostages came home. What was your thoughts about Monday, both the hostage release and the deal that Trump struck in Egypt, at least with the leaders of Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, and I think Jordan was there. And of course, the Hamas people were there too. But Hamas is digging in, James. I don't see. I think the easy part was getting the hostages back Monday. I don't think the second phase is going to be as easy. In fact, they're already out there basically putting their middle finger up to Trump, and they're killing their own people. There's a genocide going on tonight. I'm just wondering where all these protesters are that was screaming about stopping the genocide in Gaza when there's actually one going on tonight.
Oh, you're exactly right. I mean, the first thing that Hamas does is start firing squads and eliminating their opposition in Gaza. And I'm telling you, it just looks like sort of the same old, same old. You've got to give kudos to Trump. He gave it a shot. And he at least got the hostages home, and I doubt that there would have been another administration that would have been able to do that. They would have just kept kicking the can down the road.
Right.
So at least he tried to do something, and he's supposed to meet with Putin in Budapest. Here in the next few days.
Yeah.
And he's, you got to give him credit. I mean, even if you hate the guy, you've got to give him credit. He's been able to do things that other people just haven't been able to do. They haven't been able to nudge the ball forward 1 inch.
Well, I think it's not just have to; they haven't wanted to, James. A lot of these left-wing administrations and a lot of these rhino administrations, war is good to them. I think they think war is a good thing, and Trump is just the opposite. He's always campaigned that we need to get out of these unnecessary wars, and I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I was interested, and they kept pressing him. What if Hamas backtracks on its agreement and this, that, and the other? And I think we've talked on this program before. I used to run a private school, and it was far better to have sort of a threat in your back pocket, and once you use that bullet, you can't use it again. And so, he's sort of brandishing all these things about we'll go in and make Hamas do it, and this, that, and the other. This is a different crew. I mean, Trump's different too.
Yes,
so
he is.
You have two immovable forces, that are sort of butting heads over this thing, and it's going to be interesting to see where it leads to. And it is just a dangerous time around the globe. You have Venezuela moving all the troops to the border, and militias being mobilized, and this, that, and the other. And they think that they're looking down the guns of an American invasion, And as we predicted, or as I predicted on your last show, Israel went in and took out a senior commander of the Houthis. And, it's just when you think there's a glimmer of hope that things will, everybody will sort of return to common sense and come to peace tables around the world and this, that, and the other. All of these, I sort of feel for Trump because, it's like a whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
I mean, once he hits one mole on the head,
One pops up,
puts it down, three others pop up someplace else, and that doesn't count his own domestic problem.
Yeah, that's true. We got one because the government shut down. Listen, I want to stay on this topic about the Russia-Ukraine thing and get your opinion about this. Do you agree? He's meeting with Zelensky tomorrow, and it's being reported tonight that Zelensky is here for one purpose, and that is to ask the United States permission and to get Tomahawk missiles so that he can send them into Russia deeper. Now, Trump was on the phone today, and as only Trump can do it, he was at a press conference, and he was asked about that, and he told Putin, he said, how would you feel if I gave Tomahawk missiles to your adversary? And the reporter said, well, what did he say? He said, Putin didn't like that too much. And Trump did that Trump laugh. And I said, uh-oh. I said, I can only imagine what Trump told Putin on that phone, what he really told him. That was probably the rated G version, what we got today. But do you agree with that? And let me just give you an extended question. One of the things, and you mentioned the Hamas statement, he said, and I just got off the interview with Ruth Guggenheim just before you, and I said, when he made that statement, he said, if Hamas does not disarm, I will go and do it for them. Are you concerned tonight? That's two fronts. We got a Russia front, we got the Middle East front. Are we facing a possibility that if we give Zelensky those missiles, Jeemes, does that not bring America into the middle of this conflict, and does not the possibility exist, at least? I'm not saying Trump's going to do it. It may be just maybe Trump being Trump and trying to get Hamas's attention that we will do it. But are you concerned at all that we could be seeing American involvement in the Middle East with troops, maybe not troops, but at least special forces, to enforce this ceasefire? Because I don't see Hamas just playing nice and saying, hey, we just love Trump, man. We just love America. Because their people are not saying that tonight. They're basically putting their middle finger up to America and Trump tonight and saying, blank you, we're not disarming.
Yeah, you would like to think that sort of common sense prevails there, but it does not, and it hasn't from the beginning. This is a spiritual issue and deep-rooted spiritual hatreds that ordinary diplomacy and the best efforts of man are going to run up against a stumbling block every time. And he did in my opinion, applying pressure and the like, and getting getting Hamas's allies and their principal fundraisers to sort of throw them under the bus and force them to give up hostages. That was a major accomplishment.
Absolutely.
To get them to disarm means applying more leverage to those same players, and I'm not sure that I'm not sure the art of deal making is going to win the next round. It's going to take American power, and I'm not sure at home and abroad that the conditions are conducive for Trump exercising that type of power.
It's an excellent point, but I think you're making you're making my point too, because James, I don't see there's no other way out of this. I mean, if Hamas doesn't disarm, and that's a real possibility, and Trump sees, because I don't trust Turkey, I don't trust Qatar, I don't trust Egypt. to do right by Israel. And, when you just said about putting pressure on the players are all playing for the other side. I mean, they're not playing on our side. I know they verbally are saying they are. I think that there is some economic incentive for them too. Maybe that's going to keep them on the straight and narrow. Maybe they recognize Trump's strength, that he's not playing around with this. Maybe they are scared of Bibi. Maybe they're scared of Israel. I don't know. But they're not playing for our side. And the world needs, I think Americans need to understand that. Even the most ardent Trump supporters need to understand that tonight, that we're dealing with a player deck that is not decked for Israel's best interest. But this thing with Hamas, if Trump, I believe, goes in there the way he says he will, it opens up so many cans of worms, man, and there's no good end to that. And I think your point is well taken, because I don't think the world wants American over there. I don't think they want us over there. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're absolutely right on that. And so,
can I become a CIA analysis thinking like that? Is that smart enough for me to get a job at the CIA?
Yeah, that's pretty good. The question is, where is the limits of power and influence that the United States has in the Middle East? I mean, Trump has upped the ante considerably. I think we have more prestige in the Middle East right now than we ever had.
I'll agree.
And again, I'm not sure the appropriate analogy, but he has moved the game forward 2 or 3 steps beyond what the previous administration was willing or able to do, and certainly, heaven forbid, that if Kamala got into office, I can't imagine what the picture in the Middle East would be today. But Trump, to his credit, but there is a limit to American power. The only way that this was accomplished was that Trump was able to put together a package of incentives and special pressures on the traditional supporters of Hamas. And did they want to release those hostages? No way.
I'll agree.
They were pressured into releasing those hostages. Are they going to want to lay down their arms? No way. But will the same pressure be applied to them to force them to lay down the arms? And I think the answer to that is no. That there is going to have to be an exercise of power to do that. And I'm not sure Trump or his advisors are willing to swallow the really bitter pill that will come with that sort of decision. That's just my opinion.
But I'm with you on that soapbox. That's a pretty good. You talking about soapboxes? I'll get up there with you. I'll amen you on that. No, I think that's an excellent analysis, Jeemes. And I think that I think we need to be bracing for this, because I'm not saying that it's. And again, I don't even hold this against Trump. This ain't even saying it against President Trump. He's in a no-win here. Bibi's in a no-win, because Bibi's the one that's got to deal with this at his back door. Do you think that Trump outsources this to him? And I'm going to go back to Russia, because when I heard him say today we're giving Tomahawk missiles maybe tomorrow to the Ukraine, you got 2 evil players. So are we going to put the play on Zelensky now and say, okay, just go blow Russia to smithereens and maybe you'll beat them? Because I don't see Ukraine beating Russia myself. That's just me.
Yeah, but I do think that it got Putin's attention.
I do too.
And I think that's what it was designed to do. I think it gave Trump a negotiating bargaining chip, and I think that all of that, the news release and this, that, and the other, and the possibility of doing that, those were all chips that Trump pushed forward at the table to get another deal. Whether it is the threat of it Whether that is enough chips to push forward, now that's an interesting question. Because neither Trump or Putin, I'm sorry, neither Putin nor Zelensky has given any indication that they are going to back up 1 inch, let alone make the tough decisions of compromise that will bring an end to this thing. It's now going on 4 years.
Yes, it is. That's true. That's true. Good stuff, man. Listen, I'm going to keep you another 5-10 minutes. Thank you for coming on tonight. Do you believe we're going to see an end to the shutdown after this weekend? These Dems just continue to embarrass themselves, and I just get this deep sense that they're either misreading the country really bad, or we should all be scared to our depth that they see something in these polls that the American people are actually backing their play, shutting the government down for Obamacare. I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, again, my view is that it's an absolute disgrace that the United States of America, the Congress of the United States of America, cannot pass a budget.
I'll agree.
They expect every household in this country to live within its means, and they haven't for years. And so the government has operated for years, not only with one administration, but several administrations, by these continuing resolutions, which just open the door to all sorts of graft, corruption, and you have sort of these petty bureaucrats that know they're sitting on something that they need people to bend to their will in order to pass a continuing resolution. They've held the whole process hostage for years. Now then, are you going to be able to end that? Because before, it was always the Republicans that took it in the neck in terms of PR. It was always the Republicans that were going to push a grandma off the edge of the cliff in her wheelchair. At least now, my sense is, at least now, it's sort of a more of a 50-50 thing. There are a whole lot of people in the country that are putting this at the doorstep of the Democrats. And so I think there's been a perceptual shift on all of that. Whether that political perceptual shift is enough to force Schumer and the rest, and I know I've told you on this program, the best description of Chuck Schumer that I've ever heard is the most dangerous place to be in Washington is between Chuck Schumer and a camera. The guy
That's a good one. That's a good one.
And if he buckles under here, he has lost the limelight, and he also very possibly may have lost his political future. And so from that perspective, there are a lot of things that are going on, and it is just your original question was, do I think that there's going to be a near-term solution to all this? And my gut feeling is no.
Okay.
There's no middle ground that's acceptable to either party at this point.
Who does the country ultimately blame for this, though? Is the media going to be able to carry the water for them to the point that the Republicans take it in the neck again with the PR thing? Because I know right now, I've actually been quite surprised. CNN, even MSNBC, and the regular networks have not allowed the Dems to come on there and spew their talking points. They've really challenged both Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer, and they wiggle out of this. CNN challenged AOC and Bernie last night. And I've never seen more dumber than rocks people that run our government than this bunch on the left. I've never seen a more inadequate. How did we get to this place that people elect such dumb rock candidates to run this nation, James? How have we gotten to this place?
Well, I'm a historian at heart, and all of these things really trace back. There's nothing new under the sun. And during the days of the French Revolution, from which we get our terms left and right, political left and right, actually come from the assembly during the French Revolution, when all the radicals sat on the left of the assembly hall, and those that were conservative and didn't want this type of radical change sat on the right. The middle was called the swamp, which were the delegates that sat in the middle on the floor between these two extremes. And what happened over time was that middle vanished, that you had to go either to the left or to the right. And that political polarization is what I'm seeing in this country. I heard there was an excellent analysis during the election, and the essence of it is that both parties now have too much to lose. It's an all or nothing game. And we were talking about it in terms of these trials.
Yes.
It's all or nothing. If the left comes into power, you don't think that there are a bunch of people on the right that within months aren't going to go to trial?
Oh, absolutely they will. I wouldn't doubt if they didn't try to go after Trump again, James. I wouldn't doubt if they went after President Trump again.
No, absolutely. And that is all of the old sort of wink and nod, the agreements that could unite both parties. All of that is gone. It's a zero-sum game. It's you win everything or you win nothing. And we're seeing that sort of brinksmanship take place now in every major debate that comes up in the political discourse these days. There is simply nobody in the middle that has any status of respectability that can give a common sense solution to these problems that we're facing.
One final question for you tonight, and I know, again, this is sort of more of an opinion, but it is talking about national security. Venezuela has all of a sudden come under Donald Trump's radar. We blew another cartel boat, and now there was a report out tonight, just before I came on the show, that we've got hundreds of ships, not hundreds, but we got a cruiser off of Venezuela, and Trump has pretty much given a nod that they are thinking about sending missiles into Venezuela, James, to go after these cartels within Venezuela's border. Does that draw us into another possible conflict in the world tonight? This is a dangerous world we're living in, and Trump's confronting it. And I'm not opposed to it. Look, I don't think these cartels should be bringing these drugs to our country, and I say blow the you-know-what out of them, but does it open up another can of worms by sending missiles into another country?
Well, and personally, I think the broader question is the public, the United States public, would they be receptive to a massive use of American power in South America? And And I'm not real sure of that. So you have that issue. You have a serious military capabilities issue. We cannot replenish any weapons that we use these days, especially the modern generation of weapons. Once they are expended, they are gone. Our defense industrial capacity cannot keep up with any sort of action above and beyond normal peacekeeping types of things. You see what I'm saying?
I do. I'm with you. And I think, too, this sort of goes to what you were saying a while ago. This may be a bluff because Maduro, from what I understand, and I don't know if you heard this or not, he had reached out to Marco Rubio and Hexteth both just this week and was trying to make a deal with them to call off the dogs, and Marco Rubio rejected it. And he told Maduro, he said, no, it's because it was an economic. He wanted to give the United States some economic, benefits with the oil down there. And Marco said, nope, we want the cartels dead. And I think this may be another bluff. Maybe it's what Trump's doing. Maybe he's good at this. And again, I think I'll put it like this as I end this, wrap it up. I think the next 2 weeks, this latter part of October, is going to be a very interesting 2 weeks, not just in this nation, but the world. And Halloween this year falls on a Friday night. And there ain't no telling what's going to happen on Halloween. By the time we get to Halloween, Lord have mercy, what we could be involved in this country, buddy. Hey, one other quick question along these lines. Are you, what does Trump do about these cities like Chicago and Portland and Seattle and these cities that have just started attacking? You've got Don Lemon, the former CNN actor. I call him an actor. He wasn't a journalist. As perverse and wicked as any individual can be on this earth. But he is out there telling the black community to arm up tonight to fight ICE. And he's telling people that are Hispanic to arm up, that they need to go out and buy a gun and shoot ICE agents that come to get them. Jeemes, is that not threatening a federal officer? We had an arrest tonight of a young lady in Massachusetts that did that. To me, Don Lemon's saying stuff like that. You're threatening the life of a police. You're threatening federal law enforcement officer. That's jailable offense. And Pritzker, Johnson, all of these people. How hard does Trump need to push back on this? And do you think that he has got legal ground to go into these cities without their invitation, or does that open another can of worms too of something we don't want to set a precedent for? And I'll let you wrap us up on this.
Well, I was listening to Mark Levine the other night. He made a couple excellent points. There have been several presidents that have evoked the Insurrection Act to take action against nefarious domestic actors. So does Trump have legal standing to do these sorts of things? And I think the answer to that is absolutely yes. Can he win the public relations battle doing that? Maybe an entirely
different question.
Different question.
Excellent point.
But consider this. ICE is not rounding up, despite the rhetoric of the far left that he is heading towards an authoritarian government and all of this sort of stuff. ICE is not arresting ordinary U.S. citizens. They are arresting illegal people that are in this country violating the law.
That's correct, Jeemes. And that's the thing the media never talks about. That's nothing that Kimmel says. That's nothing that Colbert says. That's nothing that MSNBC talks about, NBC, ABC, CBS. It's all about, and the view that we're just a bunch of fascist thugs on the right arresting poor citizens, and they're not citizens. If you're here illegally, you are a lawbreaker, my friend. You are subject to the laws of the United States of America. Even if Kajani Brown Jackson says that you're black and disabled and you need a district to yourself to vote, even with her nonsense, you're still an illegal, James. You're still an illegal, brother.
Yep. No, you forfeit by using illegal means to enter this country. You forfeit certain citizenship rights, in my opinion, and this country has every right to deport people, especially those committing illegal acts.
Yes. Yes.
They have an absolute right to do that. In fact, it would be a derogation of their duty not to do that. I mean, the basic law in international law is that a nation state is only good as long as it can defend and enforce its national borders. And we have fallen under the spell of this sort of Marxist nonsense that the borders should be wide open, and that to enforce the borders is somehow to American intellectuals unreasonable. No other country in the world takes that position.
I'll agree. No, well said, buddy. Well said. And
no other country. China would not allow.
Looks like we've lost James a little bit there. Looks like we just lost him there. Hang on just a second. We always do this here. Let me see if we can get him back. James, are you there, buddy?
I'm still here. I can hear you fine.
Go ahead. Keep going. Go ahead. Keep going. Wrap up your point there. Go ahead. Keep going, man.
Yeah. My point is that, we have somehow in our culture and society, we have grown a group of people that completely hate the country they live in, and they've adopted an ideology that supplements that viewpoint, that buttresses that viewpoint. That there is you rely on the government for everything. Individual initiative is not to be relied on. The churches have handed over the whole concept of taking care of people in need to the government. We have surrendered that to the government. That was never a function of government. We have surrendered that function to government. We have surrendered all of this power to government, and now we are surrendering all this power to a group of technology moguls. I heard the description of a cell phone as a person carrying, an alien intelligence around in their pockets everywhere they go. We have surrendered all of these things that we should have cherished. We have surrendered to an all-powerful government, an all-powerful technology, and at the end of the day, the God of this universe is going to hold people accountable for their individual acts.
I'll agree, Jim. Totally agree.
And it's not going to hold the government responsible. It's going to hold me and you. God is going to hold me and you responsible for what we've done with his son and how we've conducted our own personal lives. And we cannot surrender that obligation for individual integrity to big government. And that's exactly what we're doing. People are looking to government for every solution to every problem. And our founding fathers did not design the system that way.
Absolutely, buddy. Buddy, you always hit a grand slam. It's always good to talk to you, and you've outdone yourself tonight again, and thank you for your insight. And folks, for those of you that don't know who Mr. Jeemes Akers is, he's a former CIA analyst with analyst for our government. Him and Brad Johnson are real good friends, and our friendship has grown. We met each other a couple of years ago. We met each other in person last year down here in the hills, and it's such a pleasure. And we went to a baseball game even together, and got the Reds in the playoffs this year. They went out quickly, but maybe next year. And who's your prediction, real quick? One-word answer for the World Series. Who wins it all this year?
Well, as much as I hate to say it, I think it's going to be the Dodgers.
I think the Dodgers are going to repeat too, and I hate to say it too. I do, but the Dodgers look pretty tough. They look rough. They look tough. They do.
My viewpoint on all of that is that, and we are straying way off the topic here now, but that, I root for these big money teams that try to buy the pennant every year. I root for each and every one of them to be eliminated by All-Star break.
I am too, buddy. I'm with you.
Eliminated by All-Star break, and I love it when these small franchise teams get in there and do well. But it looks like they're up against the juggernaut here as we proceed through the playoffs.
Me too, buddy. Buddy, I hope to see you soon before the holidays. I want to tell you we love you, appreciate you as a brother and a friend. I would say as my grandfather, but you're not quite that old yet. To be my granddaddy. But you are my friend, and I hope you know that. And your input is so wonderfully accepted. And I'm watching a lot of fire come in the house tonight for you already, and a lot of folks have really enjoyed you, and I have too. Thank you for your insight tonight. I hope you have a great week. Have a great weekend. And stay loose. If the World Star is ending tomorrow night or before I get you back on next week, we'll get you back on sooner, man.
And let me put in a shameless plug. You can go to Jeemes Akers, JeemesAkers.com, and there you can, if you're interested, you can read my writings, you can look at my artwork,
yep.
And there's a link there that you can order the books. And so I'm always I appreciate your willingness to let me put in a plug for all of that, Chris. Thanks.
Always, buddy. You're always welcome here. And listen, we'll see you soon. Have a great weekend. We love you and your wife, and God bless you guys up there. Be safe. Take care, my friend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night. Jeemes Akers, everybody. Put some fire in that house. I so am grateful that man is on Team America and served his country well, but I'm even grateful that he is my friend. And him and Brad Johnson both, we've met them both. Very sincere. I'm a big fan of authenticity. I like people that they're the same when you meet them in person as they are when they come on the show. I've not seen that in 7 years out of some, that they're all the glitz and all this for the camera, and then you get to meet them and you wouldn't want to take him. You wouldn't want to be seen in public with him. I don't mean that bad, but I mean in 7 years of a show, you come up against those personalities. This is not one of them. He is just as sincere and as solid a man, an individual. Him and Brad both are in person as they are, and we got a lot of guests like that. And I'm not just singling him out, but I will tell you, it is a pleasure to have him as our guest tonight. And Ruth Guggenheim, same thing. I've met Ruth last year at the NRB here, and just down to earth. She loves her country. She's a dual citizen. She's a dual citizen of our nation and Israel. And she can see things from a perspective of both, and that's why I love having her. We're going to be interviewing Michael Jaffe in the morning, and we probably will not air that till next week, but he will have a unique perspective too. He's another individual from Israel, and he's going to be giving his take on it. He's always a tremendous interview when we've had him, and I was so gracious to answer the call tomorrow. It'll be in the morning. I'll be interviewing him, and then we'll have him. We'll either replay it tomorrow night or next week. I want to say, everybody, we're grateful for you. If you've got a question or a comment, I'm going to sort of forego the videos tonight. I've got a few that I could play. But if you've got a If you've got a statement, Betty Truthseeker says it's time for the U.S. to stay out of the Middle East. Stuff, let them fight their own battles. Betty, that's, I know that's an opinion, and I respect that, and I'm concerned that we don't need to get involved in the Middle East, but this situation, there's going to be situations, I'm afraid, going forward, simply because of the way the world is aligning and these nations are aligning. It's inevitable, and we might as well just get ready. We got to accept this, that there are going to be certain players in the Middle East that may not leave us any choice. And I've seen people just rant and rave about what we did against Iran. And only people without any kind of compass in their morality and any kind of understanding can say stuff like that. And it's like a Monday morning quarterback. And Betty, I'm not talking about you, but I'm talking about mainly these social media influencers. But there's this idea that we sit back in our high moral, smug, self-righteous chairs, and we look down on Israel, we look down on Trump, we look down on America, we look down on our country, and we look down on the countries that are fighting for freedom, that are being attacked by these fascist elements and fascist governments, these fascist terrorist groups, these jihadists, and we think that we can give a moral grade on how they handle it. And then we say, well, we don't need to be involved in their stuff. Well, no, we ultimately shouldn't have to be, but there are going to be some times, and I'm speaking spiritually here, and I'm speaking politically. From a spiritual standpoint, folks, the Middle East is not going to get any more peaceful. There's not a long-lasting peace coming to the Middle East. I don't care how many accords they signed. And I think that the reality of it is, and again, this is my view of this, and take it as such. You guys can have your own view. But it's inevitable that America is going to be drawn into this situation eventually. I guess the question we all have to ask ourselves tonight, would we rather have somebody like Trump at the helm, if that's the case, that's got a steady hand, that don't want us in long protracted wars, or have some psychopath like Kamala Harris, or psychopath like Joe Biden, or psychopath like Pete Buttigieg, or Gavin Newsom at the helm, that is salivating for this very thing? Look, I'm very concerned that Hamas is not going to disarm, and I've had that concern long before they went into Egypt on Monday. Something's got to be done. You cannot let this terrorist group survive. You cannot. I told Ruth that in the interview, and I stand behind that. They should have been wiped off the face of the freaking earth. The only reason they wasn't was Joe Biden. I'm not even blaming Bibi for that. We tied Israel's hands the first year of this war, before Joe got defeated and Trump came into office. Bibi was basically restricted because every time he would do something, America would do something to counteract him and say, stop, 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 stop. And instead of him doing what he should have done and just ignoring America, just go into the Gaza, clean this group out, be done with it. This war could have been over in 6 months or less. But he didn't do that. And Trump comes in, and this thing had drawn out, and the media got involved, social media got involved, Candace Owens got involved, Tucker got involved. Everybody had their opinion. And it became a genocide all of a sudden. And the protesters got involved, and the devil got involved, and even Christians got involved, calling it a genocide, which it was not. No, it was Israel responding to a terrorist attack. But we are involved in the Middle East whether we like it or not. We're already involved in it. And if we got to go over there and disarm Hamas, it ain't the most perfect of scenario, but you know something? I'm at a point right now that I don't care as long as we get in there and get out. If we got to do it like we did Iran, Trump was not invading Iran. To listen to these social media people, Israel pressured America to start war on Iran. Is there any war going on with Iran tonight? No, there's not. Iran got the message that you don't with Donald Trump. And I think Hamas is about to find out the same message. And if Trump has to go in there and do a tactical strike, I guarantee somebody else found that out. His name was Bashar al-Assad from Syria. He found that out the first time Trump was in office. And if it takes that lesson, object lesson being given to the Hamas players, then America needs to get involved, if that's what it takes. But one thing Ruth told me outside the camera, and she may have said it in the interview, but I want you to listen to this very carefully tonight, because this is another thing that's being said out there that's a lie. It's being said that America is being forced into this war by Israel. Israel wants America to fight her battles. That's an absolute lie. Israel don't need America's help getting rid of Hamas. And I think that the optics of Israel doing it, Israel's already the world's devil anyway. Not that she is, but that's how the world says she is what she is. I'm all for Bibi saying, Trump picking up the phone and saying, Bibi, we've tried. We've done everything we can. Rain hell down on them again. And don't stop until you're done. Get it done quick, but rain hell down on them and go forward. I've got your back. That is a better scenario to me than sending our troops over there. But this thing with Russia and Ukraine tomorrow, if Trump hands those Tomahawk missiles over to Zelensky, and I don't know if he was bluffing today or not, but he's basically saying if Putin don't play ball, that's what he's going to do. We're involved in that war. We're involved in that. And then the Venezuela thing, could be just a bluff. Who knows? I'm going to trust my president. I'm going to say, I'm going to give him grace, and I'm going to give him a lot of leeway because he has shown himself not to want to draw us into war. But there's sometimes, as the old song goes, y'all remember that song, The Coward of the County? I can't think of the lyrics, but one of those lines at the end, it says, sometimes you got to fight to be a man. Sometimes you got to fight to be a man. Well, sometimes as the United States of America, you got to wield your power. Because unfortunately, folks, that's what these monsters respect. That's all they respect. If this was Kamala Harris involved tonight, Hamas would still be raping, killing, murdering, and cutting Israelis in half, and the world would stand by and be blaming Israel for the whole thing still. But they would still be doing what they're doing. So, I'll leave it at that. I'll amen myself. On that one. What say you out there? You got a few minutes? I'm not going to play Mitch video. I'm going to let you have this floor tonight. Anything? Bang up, great show tonight, Tim. It was, wasn't it? Corey says we're going to be okay unless Russia calls Trump's bluff. That's a possibility. Corey, good to see you tonight. And I think it's going to be interesting how Putin responds in Budapest, but Trump has walked down this road with him before. We was here in Anchorage, Alaska in August, and Trump read him the riot act. What did Putin do? The next day, he went out and started bombing Ukraine again. And sometimes America's just going to have to make some tough calls, folks, and I'm going to tell you this. Let me say this tonight. We're in the most dangerous time of history I can remember in recent years that this nation has ever been in. And, we all thought, and Ruth brought it up, the post-9/11 world, we didn't know where this was all going after 9/11, but we knew on 9/12, the day after, that we were going to war with somebody. That we could not just sit around and let what happened happen and not have some response and make somebody responsible for what happened. We wound up in Afghanistan. And there were a million mistakes made in Afghanistan. Then we went into Iraq, which I felt was a little hastily done. And I was one of the ones at the time. I supported Bush Jr. over Gore. I would have never voted for Al Gore. If 10 million polar bears would have told me the Arctic was freezing, I still wouldn't have voted for Al Gore. But Bush Jr. made a terrible mistake. There was not weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And we got bogged down in a protracted war. And it was a mistake. And it dealt a blow to this country's credibility around the world. And we still have not recovered from that in the Middle East. Trump's different. Trump's not wanting to put a U.S. flag in Gaza. He's wanting Gazans, if they want to govern themselves, to do it. But right now, they can't because Hamas is killing them all. They're killing them all. So, sometimes you got to fight to be a man. And sometimes it takes a strong leader and a strong response. I got to play you one video. This is how Hamas feels, folks. By the way, this gentleman is one of the exchange prisoners that Israel had to give up to get these hostages back. I want you to listen to what he had to say. This is just yesterday.
الكابتن جدول بقول للكابتن جدول هددتني وانت وايوب تدعس على رقبة ابني عشان اسلم اخواتي وقلت لك ما فشرت حنروح خاوه يعني حنروح خاوه وهينا روحنا خاوه وبقولوا لي يا ابو فارس طلع فينا كويس لو دارت فيك الدنيا باذن الله ما تروح من عندنا المره الجايه الك مش للي.
Now what you are saying to yourself is, Chris, we don't speak Arabic. What is he saying? What he's saying was, he was pointing to his son, and he was telling Israel yesterday, I may be back in Gaza, and you may even kill me. I'm just paraphrasing, but what the translation of that was is, my son is coming back, and he will do this again to you. That's what they believe. That's what they're screaming, and that's what they're preaching. So what do you do about that? Do you hug their neck and say, well, we understand that you're just an oppressed people by this apartheid state? That's what Moran Zandami said yesterday on Martha McCallum's show. He was basically saying Israel's an apartheid state, that all this was created because Israel created the conditions for 10/7. Oh, she's got a right to exist, but Hamas had a right to butcher her like she did. You New Yorkers got to be real proud of yourself that you've got a Marxist jihadist about to become your mayor. We ain't going to talk about the debate tonight they had between the three losers, but I mean, Curtis Sitwell made some good points, actually. I know he's not the most charismatic leader. He ain't got a prayer and you know where to win, but he would have made a good mayor for New York. But you're going to have to, you New Yorkers had better rise up and get to the polls and get Cuomo in there or somebody. You can write Christopher McDonald's name. I'll come up there. You don't want me as your mayor. You don't want me as your mayor. Very interesting stuff there. There's so much more we could talk about. This is, I do want to play one clip, and then you can put your comments in there. We're going to be finished here in about 10 minutes. John Fetterman last night.
Family. I grew up in a conservative part of Pennsylvania, and I grew up and I know and I love people that voted for President Trump. But they are not fascists. They're not Nazis. They're not trying to destroy the Constitution, those things. And that's part of another thing. I refuse to call people Nazis or fascists, or I would never compare anybody to Hitler and those things. And that kinds of extreme rhetoric is going to continue. We're going to be more likely in resulting in extreme kind of outcomes and political violence and doing all these kinds of things like Charlie Kirk. For me, all I could say is like, let people grieve. Give people the space. I'm not going to use that terrible thing and that Pasek assassination to make my argument and try to put out my views. It's like, my God, he's a father that had his neck blown out by a bullet. And now people have forgotten. President Trump in my state, was shot in the head. And if that could you imagine where our nation would be if he was hit in the same way with Kirk? We really got to turn the temperature down. And we can agree to disagree on these kinds of things. But right now, shutting down the government, I just can't take it that.
And he was at the Kennedy Center. Bill O'Reilly, Chris Cuomo, and another reporter was there last night. They were talking about the issues. I like John Fetterman. He's a Democrat. I've got no delusions of grandeur that he's a Democrat, but I'll tell you what, he's the most reasonably sounded Democrat we got in this country. And if the Democrats would listen to him, the Democrats would come back from oblivion, so I hope they don't. I hope they keep going down this crazy, insane road they're walking, but very wise. This is Matt Gaetz lying. I got to play this. Oh, by the way, since I didn't want to play these videos, but I'm playing them. Here's John Bolton 2 years ago when Mar-a-Lago was raided. Listen to this.
It's maybe of the highest level of sensitivity, or they may not. We just don't know. So we could speculate all night here. I'd prefer that the Justice Department move as rapidly as possible as they can through this, in order that as much as can be made and would be made public is done as quickly as we can, because otherwise the department is left out there twisting in the wind, to use a Watergate phrase, and it doesn't have adequate defenses against the political onslaught of Donald Trump.
Wow. Well, seems that Mr. Bolton had some classified documents of his own, 28 of them. He's been charged with 28 counts. Amazing. I will deal with this more tomorrow night. Matt Gates, roll the tape.
Evangelical Christians love Israel. It's a land with a 4,000-year connection to our faith. But with the current erratic spasms of the Netanyahu government, the love may be unrequited. Is Israel an unwelcoming place for Christians?
Now, he goes on in a 5-minute diatribe. Mike Huckabee tonight, because he basically uses Mike Huckabee's statement that Mike Huckabee called out the Israelis for this. Mike Huckabee tonight come out and said, Matt, you're a liar. So I'm just going to repeat what Mike Huckabee says to Matt Gates. You're lying, Matt. You're lying. Folks, let me say this. One more video, since I don't have many comments. This is the sentiment of the world, and this is how the world feels about Israel, and this is going to grow in great intensity before Christ comes back. We'll talk about this more tomorrow night or the next show we've got. Roll tape.
And for any Israelis watching this right now, I want you to be clear. I want you to understand this, okay? You are hated internationally. Hated. The whole international community loathes you. Young American citizens in this country, both left and right, loathe you. And eventually, these are the people who are going to come into power. Don't be mistaken based on the propaganda you hear in American media. That's not representative of how the American people feel about you. You're hated. And it's not because you're Jewish. It's because you slaughter innocent people. It's because you think you're God's chosen people when you act like absolute demons. You guys like to slaughter people and steal land, and you think you're better than everyone else. You think that you're entitled to everything, including our tax dollars. It's disgusting.
No, the only one that is disgusting is you, Anna. And I hate to call names, I swear. But folks, you know, I'll say this. Joan says I'm a host, not a mayor. My first press conference would get me disqualified from running into any office, because the mouth of the South would basically, his first press conference would pretty much seal my political fate forever and forever and forever and forever. I'd be a YouTube sensation, but my first press conference, Chris would let it all hang out. So, no, they don't want me in New York City. I'm planning to stay do what I'm doing. I like what I do. Love what I do, actually. Cedric Gibbons says, I don't speak terrorist. I know you don't, Cedric. That's why I figured I would download this. This is from the Persian Jew. She was the one that posted that thing. Let me see if I can hit the refresh button and get that. Goodness, where is that? Well, I just had it. All right, here it is. Yes. This is the screenshot of that video I just showed you. And this is one of the 2,000 Palestinian murderers who was just released in exchange for 20 kidnapped Israeli hostages boast, do you see my son? He will come to you again like on the 7th of October. He was bragging that his son is going to carry out jihad against Israel again. So, yeah. Persian Jew is becoming a Jewish. She's actually becoming a famous. Fox is quoting her. She's getting a lot of traction with her X account. The video I just played with Anna as I close tonight, let me say this, that is going to be the sentiment of this world, folks, at the end. The world is going to turn on Israel. They're already doing it. We are seeing that in greater intensity that I've ever seen in my lifetime. I only surmised what this would look like years ago. I didn't understand what it would look like. And it is scary to see it happen in real time. I know where all this is headed. If you're a child of God, a student of the Bible, if you read your Bibles, like we all need to be doing, not listening to social media people like Anna Kasparian or whatever her name is, we understand how God feels about Israel. We understand that Israel's away from God tonight. We understand that she's not in a good place spiritually. We understand that she is in a very perilous predicament, and she's going to get even in a more greater predicament as we move toward the second coming of Jesus. But she's not been forsaken by God. And while the church is playing a vital role and playing the role on the earth right now to be God's light and conduit, we've been talking about this in the morning on our Bible studies. The church has not replaced Israel. America has not replaced Israel. No other nation has replaced Israel. There is no other nation mentioned in Scripture with the importance placed on it as the nation of Israel. The only reason other nations are even mentioned in Scripture is their interaction with Israel. We're not mentioned in Scripture, the United States. What does that say? What does that say about us and our future? It says we've got a choice. That we can either do it this God's way or we can do it the hard way. These voices that you just heard, I have to be the first to tell you, I have gotten angry about it. I have gotten repulsed by it. I've said a lot of probably things that you, off the camera, some of you might not like me to say. Had to repent about it afterwards. I have expressed my anger on this show about it. I've expressed my disgust about it. I've been elevated. I've been calm about it at times. But I've come to realize that there's not much energy I can expand to stop the voice of that girl right there. I can't stop that, and neither can you, ultimately. What you can do is just speak the truth, and if these anti-Semitic voices want to continue to do this, they will have to give an account to what they're saying, just like I do. I'm going to stay on the right side of this. You're not going to hear that crap on this network. And we're not going to have people on this network that spew that crap. And we're not going to have people on this network that post that crap and share that crap. You come into this chat, and you come into this network trying to spew that mess, you will be escorted out. That's how we feel here. Because we're going to stay on the right side of this. We can't change the hearts of people. Only God can. But I will tell you this, and I say this to you all with all due respect and love tonight. It's just like the war thing in the Middle East. This is not going to get any less intense. Things are about to get more intense than they've ever gotten. And it's time that we keep the faith and ask God for courage to face these things in these last days. We're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. With the Lord's help and grace, I mean this, with the Lord's help and grace, we are going to stay the course and keep fighting this fight for you and fighting this fight for truth in these last days. I want to be on the right side of this. And I plan to be. And I know I am, because I'm on the Bible side. And I'm not twisting Scripture for my own political agenda. We've got no political agenda here tonight. But I will warn these voices like that. When you're speaking these things about Israel, you're hated. Israel, the world hates you. The world does this. We read the verse Sunday night, and we're going to read it again this coming Sunday night, the Lord willing. When Israel's enemies said the things they did and boasted about Israel against their land and boasted against Israel that they would destroy him, God himself said this. He said, "You're boasting against me." I know that young lady would take real umbrage with that and get offended, and Candace would get offended. Tucker would get offended. I saw Tucker get offended today at somebody that said that. They were complaining these pastors are out there that are coming against them now. All of a sudden, they're paid actors by Israel. Israel's paying the pastors to say these things. Wow. I guess they'll say she's paying me. I wished if Israel was paying me, they'd hurry up because I could use some funds for the trip over there. But I'm telling you this tonight, folks, as an encouragement word as we close. Do not expect this to get any less intense. And do not expect this Middle East situation to be without conflict and without peril. Do not expect our government to be without a fight for our freedom. Do not expect anything less than what you're seeing. It's just going to get worse. But we as children of God need to stay the course, stay sober, stay grounded, and stay in tune with God the Holy Spirit, and stay in tune with the Bible. And listen to biblically sound teachers and preachers and ignore the rest. And on that note, I am going to say goodnight. I am going to say goodnight to you. And Carol, you says, how can our country be so divided survive? It can't, Carol. It can't. That's the devil's goal in all of this. That's the devil's ultimate play. He knows that. He knows that better than most Christians know that. It's a good question. We can't survive. And we won't survive. And right now, every issue, James sort of alluded to it tonight, it's an all or nothing thing in Washington right now. Both sides are so entrenched with ideology, there can't be a compromise. You know, back in the days of Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton, they were totally opposite. Newt, when he won the House in '94, I was a reporter at a newspaper, or I had just left the newspaper when that happened. And but I remember the first 2 years of that was nothing but gridlock. And Clinton had gotten thumped so bad, he went to Newt. They worked out their differences and came up with some reasonable things to help Medicare and the insurance of this country. And it wound up Newt compromised, and it cost Bob Dole the presidency of '96 because the people saw Clinton was willing to work with the Republicans, and they put him back in office for 4 more years. And then we got Monica. We was introduced to Monica, and we got introduced to a lot of other things. He tried to strong-arm Israel into giving up land for peace. Came this close to giving Yasser Arafat the entirety of Jerusalem. So that's our politics. It's all or nothing right now. And unless something changes in the hearts of these men, you're going to have many. I think who was it? Stephen said they're primarying him in Pennsylvania. I don't doubt it. The Dems cannot stand somebody like Fetterman, who is basically telling them the truth, that they need to stop this Hitler stuff and stop this crap and stop this all or nothing game. And the Republicans need to as well. But the Republicans don't need to compromise with evil either. There's some things that are worth standing up for and fighting for. Life is one of them. Anyway. Yep, CJ, you're a little late. We've already said that tonight. He has sent some B-52s. He sure has. Anyway, good to see everybody tonight, and we're grateful for you. And the anti-Semitism is at an all-time high, and it's getting worse. Yep. Chris, it is. It is. Joan Meyer. No mayor, Mr. Chris. You're a host. Joan, it's okay. It's okay. You got to go worry about that. I think what I should do is, Kathy got me a duck outfit. You know, I wore that a few months ago. What I need to do is do a parody one. I think we all need a good laugh or two. I have not brought the bear hat in so long. We need to just do a Friday night hat show. And we're going to be celebrating 7 years of the McFiles come January. 7's a big number. That's a God number. And I think what I may do for Christmas, just to lighten the mood and all this stuff, just to break the monotony, is go find every single hat I've ever wore on this show. And I may even pull that duck outfit out. That was supposed to be I don't know, why did Kathy buy that duck outfit? It was a blanket. That's right. We thought it was a blanket. She thought it was a blanket. And when we got it, we started busting out laughing. And we realized it was an outfit. And she begged me. She said, please wear this just one night. And I did. I gave in. to my sweet wife, and I did, and we got all sorts of comments. But I think that we just need a hat night to lessen the mood and lower the thing. But, Joan, if I ever got elected, I would wear that duck fit to my first press conference because that would ruin my political career. Oh! I put it like this. It can't be any worse than the bunch we got in there now because they're acting like a bunch of ducks, and I could use a few other vernaculars, but this is a family show tonight, and I love all of you, and I'm grateful you've been with me. It's midnight, and I'm out of here. We may or may not be with you tomorrow night, but we will be with you in the morning on The Face Show, and we thank you for being with us. We'll keep abreast of things. If breaking news breaks in, we will break in. But we will definitely see you next week, on and off, and then the following week. We got some great guests coming next week. Ricky Wilson will be back with us Monday night week. Other guests will be with us next week. Quack, quack. Quack, quack. Okay. Have a good one out there, everybody. Be blessed. Put some fire in that house if you enjoyed the show tonight. We're grateful you've been with us. Have a good night, everybody. Take care out there. Be safe. Good night. And thanks to Jeemes Akers and Ruth Goodenheim tonight. Put some fire in that house for him. Have a good night, everybody.